Most people use their health savings account wrong, and I don't mean a little wrong. I mean fundamentally, structurally wrong in a way that costs them tens of thousands of dollars over the course of a career. They treat it like a medical debit card. A doctor's bill shows up, they go into the app, they transfer the money out, bill paid, done. Convenient, logical, and probably one of the most expensive financial habits a person can have. Because buried inside the HSA rulebook, specifically inside IRS Notice 2004-50, Question and Answer 39, published in August of 2004, is a sentence that almost nobody outside of tax planning circles has ever read. It says, and I'm quoting directly from the IRS document, there is no limit on when the distribution must occur. Let me tell you what that actually means. And once I do, the way you think about this account will never be the same. First, let's make sure we're on the same page about what an HSA is and why it's different from everything else. A health savings account is only available to people enrolled in a high deductible health plan. In 2026, that means a plan with a minimum deductible of at least $1,700 for self-only coverage or $3,400 for a family. The contribution limits for 2026 are $4,400 if you're covering just yourself and $8,750 for a family. Now, here's what makes it genuinely different from every other savings vehicle in the tax code. Every other account gives you two of the three major tax benefits. A traditional 401k gives you tax-free contributions and tax-deferred growth, but you pay taxes on the way out. A Roth IRA gives you tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals, but you put in the money after tax. The HSA is the only account in the entire US tax code that gives you all three. Tax-free in, tax-free growth, tax-free out. Every dollar that goes in grows and comes out without the government taking a cut, but only for qualified medical expenses. And there's a fourth benefit that rarely gets mentioned. If your contributions run through your employer's payroll system, which they do for most people with a workplace health plan, those contributions avoid FICA taxes too. That's Social Security and Medicare taxes, an additional 7.65% on top of whatever federal income tax you're already skipping. A direct contribution you make yourself avoids income tax but still gets hit by FICA. The payroll route avoids both. So we have an account that is, by every measurable standard, the most tax-efficient savings vehicle available to the average American worker. And the majority of people who have one are using it as a medical debit card, as I mentioned earlier. Here's where the strategy begins. Imagine you have a family HSA and you're contributing the maximum, $8,750, and instead of pulling money out every time a medical bill arrives, you pay those bills from your regular checking account. You keep every single receipt, the dental work, the specialist visit, the glasses, the prescription, everything. You store them in a digital folder organized by year, and you invest your entire HSA balance in a low-cost index fund. You never touch it. That's the setup. Now here's what happens. The IRS sentence I quoted, there is no time limit on whenever the distribution must occur, means that as long as the medical expense happened after HSA was established, you can reimburse yourself for it at any point in the future. Not the same year, not within 5 years, not within any window, any point ever. Those receipts sitting in the folder on your computer, in 10 years, 20 years, in retirement, you can submit all of them and pull out the equivalent amount in cash. Tax-free, no penalty. The IRS has explicitly confirmed this interpretation. It is not a gray area or an aggressive read of the law. It is the law as written and as clarified in the official guidance. Meanwhile, the money that would have gone out to pay those bills has been sitting in the market, compounding. You paid the bills with the after-tax dollars from your checking account, yes, but you preserved the HSA balance, which was growing tax-free the entire time. Let's make this concrete with a number. A family contributing $8,750 a year, invested in an index fund at 7%, and never withdrawing, after 25 years, that account has roughly $570,000. The entire balance is accessible tax-free as long as the receipts are there to back up the withdrawals. To consider what a family actually spends on medical costs over 25 years, deductibles, copays, dental, vision, prescription, a conservative estimate for a family over that stretch is easily $50,000 to $70,000. Every dollar that is sitting in that receipt file, waiting, You can pull out that entire amount tax-free the moment you decide to. The rest just keeps on compounding. And here's the piece that most people will never hear. At age 65, the rules shift in a specific way. The 20% penalty for non-medical withdrawals disappears entirely. After 65, you can pull out money for any reason, not just medical. Non-medical withdrawals get taxed as ordinary income, the same as a traditional IRA. But the receipts you've been accumulating over a decade let you pull out a portion of that balance completely tax-free, ahead of the income tax that would otherwise apply. Your HSA becomes a traditional IRA with a secret unlock, and the key to that lock has been sitting in a folder on your hard drive the whole time. Now let's cover the 4 requirements, because the strategy only holds up if you execute it correctly. The first rule: the HSA must have been established before your expenses occur. You cannot open an HSA today and claim a bill from last year. The account has to exist at the time of the expense. The second rule: you have to keep records sufficient to show the withdrawals are for qualified medical expenses. The IRS requires documentation, explanation of benefits from your insurer, itemized receipts from providers, pharmacy records. Digital storage is fine. A cloud folder works perfectly fine, but the documentation has to exist. The third rule: the expense cannot have been previously reimbursed from any other source. If insurance paid for it, if you already pulled it out from your HSA, it does not qualify again. One expense, one reimbursement. The fourth rule: you cannot have claimed that expense as an itemized medical deduction on a prior tax return. If it went on Schedule A as a deduction in the year it happened, it's off the table for an HSA reimbursement. Follow those 4 rules and the strategy is completely sound. This is the law as the IRS wrote it and as they have confirmed in the formal guidance since 2004. A couple of other things worth knowing. You do not have to stay enrolled in a high deductible plan to keep using the HSA. If you change jobs and your new employer's plan is not HDHP eligible, you stop being able to contribute. But the balance stays. It keeps growing, and you can still take qualifying withdrawals against any old receipts indefinitely. There is also a one-time move available called a qualified HSA funding distribution. If you have a traditional IRA, you can transfer money directly from that IRA into your HSA once over your lifetime. It has to go directly from the IRA custodian to the HSA custodian. It counts towards your annual HSA contribution limit for that year. But it's a clean transfer that moves money from a less efficient tax structure into a more efficient one, and it's available to anyone that qualifies. Here's how to apply this. If you are currently enrolled in an HDHP and have an HSA, the first move is to invest the balance. Most HSA custodians allow you to invest in index funds once you clear a certain threshold, often as low as $1,000. Get past that threshold and you can put the rest to work. Cash sitting in an HSA earns almost nothing. An index fund earning 7% annually untaxed is fundamentally a different instrument. Start keeping records from this point forward. Build a habit now. Every qualified medical expense, dentist, specialist, prescription, vision, goes into a digital folder labeled by year. Explanation of benefits from your insurer is ideal because it shows exactly what was paid out of pocket. This is the lowest effort part of the strategy and the one most people skip. Pay medical bills out of your checking account when your cash flow allows it. If you can afford to cover the expense without touching the HSA, do it. Every dollar you leave inside the account instead of pulling out is a dollar that continues compounding tax-free. And if you're in an open enrollment right now and trying to decide between a high deductible plan and a traditional plan, this strategy is worth factoring into that decision. The trade-off is accepting a higher deductible in exchange for access to the most tax-efficient account in the tax code. For people in good health who can absorb the deduction, that math often favors the HDHP significantly over time. Fidelity's 2024 estimate puts the healthcare costs for a couple retiring today at roughly $330,000 over the course of retirement. And that number doesn't include long-term care. The HSA is the only account specifically designed to hold money for that purpose, growing tax-free, accessible tax-free. And if the receipt strategy is in place, a significant portion of that balance can come out without touching your tax bracket at all. There's been a sentence sitting in an IRS notice since 2004 telling anyone who reads it that there is no time limit. 2 decades later, most HSA holders are still using the account like a medical checking account. Open the folder, start saving the receipts, let the balance grow.